The NFL draft decides everything. This is where dynasties are built, where franchises get set back a decade, where Super Bowls are won, or where teams book their flights to Cancun. And the 2026 class was no different. It was supposed to be weak, no stars at the top, a coin flip class. Instead, it became the most aggressive Thursday night the league has seen in years. The Jets swung 3 times in round 1. The Browns built through the trenches. The 49ers traded out of the round entirely. Other teams reached on players for the board they didn't agree with. Every team made a bet, but one bet broke the night in half. At pick 13, the Los Angeles Rams drafted Matthew Stafford's replacement. With Stafford still in the building, with a Super Bowl roster around him, with the reigning MVP trophy in his living room. And so, the question is, did Les Snead just secure the next decade in LA, or did he just torch Matthew Stafford's last real shot at another ring? That's the debate. Welcome back to the War Room. Let's jump into it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the long-awaited biggest winners, biggest losers of the 2026 NFL Draft. Joining me today is my co-host, Liam Carr.
Excited to be here. The draft was awesome. Thank you, everybody, for watching. It was pretty good, Mason. It was pretty good. I'm excited to talk about our grades and what we think of it now.
Yeah, we leading up to the entire draft cycle, we put together a prospect board of 200 players. We released a top 50 big board player, and we had a pretty good idea of some of our favorite classes, some of our least favorite classes. And that's where we're going to go in this video today. We're going to cover 4 of our favorites, 2 of our least favorites, and then we're going to end it with a debate of what happened with the 13th pick. So without further ado, let's jump into it. This is the War Room, presented by the Sideline Journal, where the film doesn't lie. Let's get to work. And so, Liam, I want to kind of toss over to you to one of your favorite classes and one of my favorite classes, the Carolina Panthers.
Man, I don't know what it is, Mason, but we've just been high on the Panthers since we've started the Sideline Journal. And, hey, they did it again with this draft. Very happy about it. I mean, talk about adding beef in the trenches. I mean, Monroe Freeling and Lee Hunter. I mean, Mason, you love Monroe Freeling. He was our number 1 tackle rated in the draft, right?
Yeah, 8th ranked overall player.
Yeah, we're high on him, and he's definitely going to come through for the Panthers. And then Lee Hunter, defensive tackle. A lot of people kind of graded him all right, but he's a defensive tackle. He is fit for it. He is going to get the job done. He's going to blow up the run game. He's going to do what he's needed to do. And he's also has that part of the game where he can go and get a sack. He can go and pressure the quarterback too. He's pretty good. So I'm hyped that the Panthers got him. He's going to be a great addition to the defense that's just been revamped this season. And then I love those 2 picks. And then I thought that they hit another one in the 3rd round with Chris Brazzell II out of Tennessee. Really shifty wide receiver. I don't remember where we had him ranked, but me and Mason debate all the time, and I was really high on Micaiah Lemon. Mason, not so much. He was really high. He likes the Alabama guy, Jermaine.
Jeremy, yeah, Bernard.
Kind of a big fan of him, lower class. But me and Mason both agreed on that Chris Brazzell II is a great value pick. He can get it all done. Their wide receiver room is coming together nicely. You got T-Mac, the big tall. He'd be the he's just gonna be the outside threat. Jalen Coker has come on strong as a great 2, and so you get Brazzell in there just as another weapon. Fantastic. And then just to round it off, Will Lee III out of Texas A&M. A lot of people have different opinions on him. He's a good athlete. Sits behind J.C. Horn. We'll give him a second. His film is not great, but there's something there. And then I just wanted to end it with Sam Hecht out of Kansas State, one of the best centers in the draft. In the 5th round, why not take a flyer? He's worth it, in my opinion. He's a good center. Centers aren't what they used to be, but just a great pick. So I loved the Panthers draft.
Well, yeah, so, starting from the 5th round down, right, Sam Hecht, he's going to be somebody that can replace Cade Mays, leaving him free agency, provides you good depth in the interior, which they are what I love what they're trying to do, which is build through the trenches, which is what we want football teams to do. And, I mean, running back through that, the wide receiver rankings in this class a lot of people understood what the top 5 were, but 6 through 10 were everywhere. Well, we've had kind of our 6 through 10 pretty consistent. We've had it be Jeremy Bernard, Chris Brazzell, Ted Hurst Jr., Antonio Williams, and Chris Bell out of Louisville. That was kind of the way that we saw it. And I mean, Liam, I think that was a home run pick. And then to your credit with Lee Hunter, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you have Caden McDonald going at 19 in your final mock draft at the Panthers? And they followed up, said to get him at 49. I mean, the crystal ball there was incredible.
Yeah, they should be thanking that Caleb Banks went like just so early, such a wild pick, and then the Vikings had to go and pick Dominique Orange because I guess they don't believe all the way in Caleb Banks. So yeah, Lee Hunter kind of, I don't know if I would say falling, but just them able to grab such a good nose tackle right there. Fantastic. Mason, how do you feel about them just with their trenches? I mean, going with the center from Kansas State, Monroe Freeling and Lee Hunter are it seems like a good stack of they added a lot of LBS in that trenches.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm going to go back to that pick at 19. And what's going to give it to me a really high grade for the draft is Monroe Freeling was truthfully my 8th ranked player. I thought that he was the number 1 tackle with the highest potential that could play left tackle day one. NFL felt about that a little differently, going with Francis Maino and Spencer Fano, I think cleaner projectable prospects. But what's great about what they're doing is he is going to slide in and play day one left tackle. They went and got Ike Ekwonu back in 2022 with the 6th overall pick, and unfortunately, he tore his patellar tendon, and he's probably going to be out all of 2026. But long-term, Taylor Moton, 33 years old, he's been a stalwart on the right side for you for the past 8 years, but his contract's up. This is consistently building through the trenches, which is what you have to do if Bryce Young's going to be your quarterback. And then wrapping it up with that front 7, adding in Lee Hunter, you've now got Derek Brown, Lee Hunter, Nick Scourton, Jalen Phillips, Devin Lloyd at middle linebacker. This defense and this defensive front, it's looking nicey. It's looking pretty nicey. So, Liam, let us know, what do you grade their 2026 draft class at?
The Panthers, I gave them an A minus.
I had them at a B plus. So I think that that is a pretty good consensus for what the grades are. So Panthers fans, you drop your comments below. You let us know what you think about their draft class. We're pretty high on it. I think it's definitely put them in consideration to go back and repeat as NFC South champs. And kind of moving right along, we're going to now go to maybe more of the negative side here, and I'll intro it for us. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars as one of the biggest losers of the 2026 draft class, and it all starts with what they decided to do with the 2nd round pick in Nate Borkacher out of Texas A&M, blocking tight end who isn't adept at running or catching. And the mock draft consensus data board had him as a 174th ranked player. He wasn't in my even top 7 tight ends, and you pick him at 56th overall. When other defensive tackles are on the board, because that's a major need, they go and let Devin Lloyd walk in free agency. There were linebackers available worth taking there, and then you kind of work through their draft as well. They go then reach on Albert Regis, a 3 tech out of Texas A&M that personally, Liam, I think was a day 3 day 4 kind of player, and they get him at 81. Love Emmanuel Pregnon. I think he fell a little farther than he should have, but that's a good high floor pickup. And then after that, I mean, they kind of rounded out with Jalen Husky, safety out of Maryland, Wesley Williams, an edge out of Duke in the 4th round. But ultimately, each one of those players that I just mentioned, they were 50 to 70 spots past the mock draft consensus board. And objectively for me, they weren't in my top 150.
In my notes, all I have is reach, 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 not necessary, not necessary, not necessary. I mean, I guess inside their organization, they have a totally different perspective on what their team needs instead of us, which, we're sitting here doing this not for any paycheck, just based off of what we feel like. I just thought it was an incredible draft. I know they didn't have a 1st round pick, but I thought it was incredibly just crazy. I mean, I feel like this was kind of like the Browns last year when we didn't know if any of the people making decisions in the draft room were in the same room, where they all just blind picking whenever they could. I mean, they have kind of like they have a wealth of wide receiver, and they went and picked 2 straight. They have now, I think, like 7 or 8 tight ends on the team because they did 2 in the draft, and so 2 edges, and they kind of needed that, but I just didn't understand where they were focusing on is why didn't love the draft at all. And then the reaches that we had, Mason, you already brought them up, so I won't knock on it too much, but I just thought most of their picks were reaches. So I like Emmanuel Pregnon. That's a good pick. Um, in the 3rd round, grabbing a good guard like that, that was my favorite pick by them. But really besides that, I didn't think it was anything special. They are coming off a high. They were just really competitive in the AFC, in their division, and in the playoffs. They were doing pretty good. And so it was just so weird to me that after having such a good year, this is how they followed it up, and especially with free agency, having to fill some of those needs that they let walk, I was very surprised.
It was a really confusing offseason, right, for the Jags, because we were both kind of higher on the Jags coming into the offseason. Shameless plug for us if you want to go check out our AFC South preview all the way back in to the summer of 2025. We were pretty high on them and what we thought that they could do. So we were believers in Liam Cohen. But I mean, the roster building strategy just doesn't make sense from James Gladstone. Youngest GM in football, interesting background. He obviously believes in his draft process and draft philosophy, but ultimately, if 300 people come to a consensus on something, it's very rarely that one person's going to see something that nobody else sees time and time again in players. And I just go back to I think that the Jags roster has only gotten worse since this regime has taken over, starting with the first thing that they did of trading the capital that they did to go up and get Travis Hunter. And I mean, if you want to look at their first round pick, you could say they drafted Travis Hunter at wide receiver last year, and now they drafted quarterback Travis Hunter. Is that a starter at either of them? I don't know. You decide. But I think that you really hit the nail on the head, Liam, as far as just for a team, a young team that's building going into the playoffs, and they reached on so many players instead of getting good talent, which you can kind of see on our board up here. We're going to show it where we had them ranked and where that they were drafted. So, Liam, where do you have their draft graded at?
I had them right above another team that we're going to talk about later with an F plus.
It's very, very unforgiving. I will put it as a solid D just because of Emmanuel Pregnon. Emmanuel Pregnon was a player for me. That was my 53rd ranked player. I think 4th ranked interior guard, and they got him at pick 88. So that's a plus 30 value for me. And that's really the only thing that is saving it from an F plus. But y'all drop your take down below. You let us know what you thought of the Jack's grade, or are we too negative about it, or are we seeing something that a lot of people maybe aren't seeing? So, kind of moving right along here, let's look at one of your favorite draft classes, Liam, the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, going through it at first, I kind of skipped by them. I didn't really think it was anything too special. Went back to them and was pleasantly surprised. A lot of people, the Vega Iona pick, not sexy, not cool. A lot of Ravens fans were probably disappointed, but it's what they needed. And he's a good prospect for a guard. So, although that pick wasn't fun, I think they're gonna love him come December. And so, going after that, Zion Young, great prospect, high ceiling. Glad that they can get another good edge rusher for where they were at the pick 13 of the 2nd round. I'm fine with it. Was it what they needed? It wasn't super high, no, but you know, a good value pick. And then I loved Mason. We were talking about this in the pre-show. Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt back to back. They have wide receiver problems. I mean, Zay Flowers is a Pro Bowl wide receiver, yeah, but I mean, Ravens, I know Ravens Twitter, and they don't like Zay Flowers a whole lot. You lose Isaiah Likely, who was a receiving threat, and then who else do you have in the receiving room? I mean, come on, Rashad Bateman. And so I think Jacoby Lane, he's going to be one of the guys I'm watching in the dynasty draft. Please don't tell anybody that. And so I think that he's a real good prospect. And they just finish it out pretty solid, filling up all the other needs. So that's why I gave it a pretty good grade, is just because I think they hit the first 4 picks pretty good. And then they just utilize the rest of their draft capital very well. So I'm not gonna say what I gave you yet, but Mason, do you have anything on them?
Well, I can really talk about their first two picks, right? Because it was right where I had them graded. I had Vivega Ione as my 14th ranked player, and they picked him at 14. We put a video up on our TikTok saying the most obvious Raven pick of this draft class was Vivega Ione to replace David Falalele, and that's what they did. And then the second pick that I really liked, they got him at 45. He was my fifth ranked edge after Keldrick Falk. I had Zion Young at 5 and then TJ Parker at 6. So Zion Young came in as my 34th ranked overall player, and they got him at 45. And I think that he pairs up well in a young room next to fellow second round pick last year, Mike Green. And ultimately, then what they did with the third and fourth pick that you really hit on well is Declan Doyle is their OC. He came over from the Ben Johnson era of offense with the Chicago Bears. And Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt are two young, dynamic receiving threats to add to a room that Rashawn Baten's getting up there longer in the tooth, is very dynamic. And you've got a contract decision coming up in Zay Flowers. So, Liam, I think you really hit it on the nail on the head there about a team that took best player available at each spot and didn't necessarily worry about need. They're like, hey, we're going to take the best player that's on our board.
Yeah. And so, I don't really have anything else with them. I mean, we could maybe highlight some of these guys at the back end, but I mean, everybody is guessing when it comes to those 6th and 7th round picks. I mean, and even the 5th round. I mean, nobody would have told you Puka was a great pick when it happened. Only one person in the world seemed to believe in him, and that was Sean McVay. So, but no, they just filled the needs. And so, Mason, I'll tell you this: I gave them a B. I graded them a B, and so we're talking very highly about them. So why a B? It just didn't fit. I couldn't give it. It couldn't fit with the other teams I graded. Okay? I'm being honest here. I'm always gonna be honest, and so I gave them a B. But I just really like the draft. Just really like it. So what do you rank the Ravens? Grade them.
I put it at a solid B as well, just because it was guard and need at 14. Yes. Was it the highest need? I don't really know, because at 14, I'm obviously higher than the NFL was, but I go back to Caden McDonald, my 15th ranked player that fell to the Texans at 36. I think that the biggest missing piece for the Ravens on their defensive line is a run stuffing nose tackle that can maybe have a little pass rush juice. And I think that Caden McDonald provides more of that than you would think, because it goes back to that injury with Nadmi Matabuke in his neck if he's ever going to play football again. I think B is a comfortable grade. It's where I had it too. It's because they hit safe doubles with every pick. I don't think they got an A plus transformational player out of the class. They just were, hey, we're up at the plate. Let's hit a solid double and get out there. So I think that's a very, very fair grade.
Yeah. And so moving on to a bad pick, or do we have a good pick here?
Yeah, let's move on to the. Yeah, I could talk about the Bucks. I'd love to talk about the Bucks because I'm pretty high on this draft, because it all the way goes back to their pick that they got at 15th, my second ranked player in the class, the Batman villain from the third movie, Reuben Bain Jr., staying in the state. Absolute transformational pass rusher, my only other blue shirt player in the class. He's going to fit in really nicely to a defense that sorely needs him, with Kalijah Cansey, Vita Vea. I always forget Yaya Diaby. That's always the person I forget. They're all weirdly looking defensive linemen. They've got they're big, thicker guys with shorter arms, but man, they've got explosion and power. And then you go look at how they kind of rounded up their class as well. I honestly thought that Josiah Trotter was a little bit of a reach at 46, because I would have liked to see CJ Allen or Jake Galday. But Josiah Trotter was someone that was firmly in my top 75. I had him as my 64th ranked player. Fills a position of need. He's more of a scheme fit for what Todd Bowles wants. The tape really shows up as somebody who has a nose for the football, and he replaces Levante David. And then in the third round, 84th pick, getting Ted Hurst Jr. out of Georgia State. Talk about somebody that is going to be the perfect Mike Evans replacement. Not saying he's going to be Mike Evans, but the role in the offense. Modern offenses need something out of a receiver position called the sacrificial X receiver. Somebody that can line up out wide against press coverage on 3rd and 8 and create separation. And what he's going to do is unlock Emeka Egbuka and Chris Godwin to do what they do best, which is move around the formation of the line of scrimmage to line up in the best position against the best nickel defender. The last pick that I want to talk about that I really like from their class is Keontae Scott out of Miami, a physical nickel corner that has a nose for the football. That the role I see in the Todd Bowles defense is he's going to blitz them out of fire zone consistently on third down. And that's just what he showed on his tape of Miami. Somebody that bites on the football pretty quickly, but at the same time, a player that just is a good football player. So I'm really high on their class, Liam.
Yeah, I really like that Ted Hurst pick, and some might say that was a reach there because, I mean, 2 weeks before the draft, he was kind of unheard of out of Georgia State, and so, he really went up high because of his size, and so I love everything about him. He's great, and for that wide receiver room, he was much needed. So if they reached on Ted Hurst, that's fine because looking at their wide receiver room height, Amika Ibuka, 6'1", Chris Godwin, 6'1". Let's go to Cameron Johnson, 5'10", Tez Johnson, 5'10", Jalen McMillan, 6'1". Obviously in need of that big X receiver playing on the boundary, being able to just be a huge threat to the safeties and cornerbacks on the outside and the deep. I really like it. Um, I'm excited to see what they're gonna cook up with him. But anyway, so Ruben Bain Jr., absolute steal. At 15, we've talked about that nonstop, but absolute steal. He is gonna. I'm betting a ton of money on him
Yeah.
if I was a betting man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that he's gonna be a guy. Is he gonna be the defensive rookie of the year? Um, I don't know, but I'm not gonna get caught up in that because if he doesn't win it, people are gonna think he's a bum. He's gonna be a bust anyways. I think he's just gonna provide so much help to the Buccaneers defense that I think truly only Bucks Twitter fans will truly appreciate, and everybody else will still make fun of him when he has like one bad mess up. I think he's gonna be awesome. So getting him at 15, fantastic. And then Josiah Trotter, yeah, looking at the draft, who was picked after him, it went CJ. No, it went Galladay.
Yeah. Galday.
Yeah, and then CJ Allen, and then Anthony Hill. Are the Bucks gonna regret that? Don't know.
Time will
Those are
tell.
some pretty
Time
good
will tell.
linebackers, right? But, he's still a good athlete. They needed to replace him. Maybe time will tell about that. But Josiah's still a great athlete. They must love him. I wonder if the guy who just retired, Levante David, if he had anything to say about who he liked out of the class. If they trust him, then he's a great replacement. And then, yeah, Keontae Scott out of Miami. They needed a little help with the cornerback room. He's quick. He's pretty physical. You love that out of cornerbacks. 64 tackles last season, so he's not afraid to get his head into the run game, and then he can play zone and man well. So they'll definitely have a fit for him, and so I'm excited about the Buccaneers and their draft, Mason.
Yeah, and so I mean, ultimately for me, the grade that I have, it's one of three that I have. It's an A+ grade for me. I think that ultimately, even with a little bit of a slight reach for Josiah Trotter, they consistently at their first round pick, third round pick, and fourth round pick took players within my top 75 board. And Ruben Bain, my second ranked overall player, Ted Hurst Jr., I think he was in my mid 60s, so I haven't pulled it up right now, and Keontae Scott was at 73. So I mean, coming away with a draft when you really only have three top 100 picks with three top 75 players is a win in my book.
For sure. This is gonna be the farthest difference in grade so far. I gave them a B+, and I think it was because of that Josiah Trotter pick and seeing what other linebackers were on the board. But I mean, they did pretty good job filling all their needs, and then just getting that absolute steal with Ruben Bain. I didn't have him going that far back. I gave them a B+, but I just didn't think it was as good as 3 other teams. But it's still a good pick. It's still a great draft.
Yeah. Kind of turn the page here. We'll go to the second draft that we really are just thinking is an absolute head scratcher, and I'll let you kind of intro it. The San Francisco 49ers.
Worst advertisement for an AI program of all time. I mean, just a week before John Lynch is being questioned if they're utilizing any outside sources, and he goes, yeah, we're using AI to help us kind of go through this draft process. And they follow it up with this. I mean, come on. They're making all these fun trades getting out of the first round, thinking that they're doing something. And then with the first pick of the second round, you pick who?
Deshaun Stribling.
I mean, they could have gotten him in the 5th round right? Fourth round, maybe even they could have gotten him. And so I didn't understand that at all. I mean, it's just starting there. I was like, what are they doing? They thought they were clever getting out of the first round, building draft capital, and then they go get this guy. And then Romelio Height, I don't mind. He was not the best edge rusher. Everybody knows that, but he has some problems with him. I think he has a good base foundation. He didn't prove a whole lot with the film, so that was disappointing. I think he has a good foundation, so they can work with him right there. They can work with him, right? I mean, look at that edge room; it's not bad. He's not going to be starting. Don't give him. He was a third round pick, all right. So don't be adding all those extra problems to him where you're going to be expecting a whole lot, all right. He's a third round pick. But then going with the Indiana running back Black, Kalen Black, I thought that was a little crazy. I like Grayson Holton, Oklahoma guy, D tackle. I think he's pretty good. I was bummed that he kind of went that far. I was hoping that he'd go sooner because I think he's pretty good. But yeah, and then Mason, I just didn't understand kind of the rest of the draft. I mean, did you figure out what John Lynch was trying to do here?
Well, I'll go back to really the larger narrative about this draft class in the next couple before it levels back out. The NIL is killing the middle rounds of the draft because talent that would be available, they're choosing to remain in college and go up to the Power Four to make more money before they go into the NFL draft. And so, what I honestly just did not understand about the 49ers draft philosophy is we're going to trade back already in a weaker draft class to gain more middle round picks because I just look at a bunch of Jags, just the guys that they got. Because, I mean, rounding up, they had two more fourth round picks. And, I mean, Carver Willis is kind of a tweener offensive lineman from Washington. You don't know if he's going to play tackle or guard. He might not be able to play both at the next level. And then Ephesians Prysock, a DB out of Washington, who I think is an inferior version of his teammate that went in the third round, just not as lanky and as grabby. But going back to some of the names that you mentioned at the top with Dejon Stribling, the first pick of the second round. Nobody anywhere also inside of the NFL community had this person ranked over Denzel Boston, and then who is the other receiver at the Browns or that also went pretty high in the second round? Jeremy Bernard, my guy, Jeremy Bernard. No, yeah, no, but you're that guy too. Nobody had Deshaun Stribling over that. I don't even see the vision for it. I see him as a physical receiver that does have some top end speed, but he doesn't separate. I don't think he has short quickness, great route running, and I think the stems on his routes are pretty average at best. And he's just not a dynamic threat that you would take at the top of the second round. And then Romello Height, fine at 70. I mean, I had him as my 83rd ranked player. You get him at 70, cool. He'll slide into that designated pass rusher role behind Mikael Williams and Nick Bosa. He might get you 5 to 6 sacks in a season on third down rushing only. That's okay. But then Kalen Black out of Indiana. That continues the trend of what the 49ers do of drafting an awful running back in the third round. Go look at Isaac Garendo, and then I think there's another one, I've already forgotten his name. Like, if you double down on bad habits, it's the definition of insanity. And it goes back to what you said. Awful endorsement for AI. Awful endorsement of AI for a draft class. So I really only see two redeemable picks in Grayson Holton and Romello Height, and they're okay. So I'm really not a fan of this draft class at all either, Liam.
No, and like Grayson Holton, nose tackle, was he really necessary? I mean, you're in the fourth round, so it's like the picks you're just going on guys you liked, you're high on that nobody else is high on, or just you're taking a flyer on somebody. So
it's like when John Lynch was using ChatGPT to build his draft board. It started hallucinating about Moneyball, and they're like, "We're gonna build the team through the aggregate. We're gonna trade down. That's what we're gonna do."
yeah, and I'm just thinking about the wide receiver room for the 49ers now. Is it a Mike Evans, who's how old, and then it's Ricky Pearsall, and then Deshaun Stribling,
You got it.
and then George Kittle's not going to be there for most of the year, right?
At the torn Achilles, yeah. So it's gonna be
They
Jake Tonga's
they
season.
sign Jaquan Jennings, and then Brandon Ayuk is, we don't know what he's doing, but man, I feel bad for Brock Purdy.
I do too. It's like, I'm seriously, it's like they're trying to play Moneyball. Like they're gonna rebuild Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle and through the aggregate. So we'll see, but I think that the drum roll is up. Liam, what do you have their draft grade at?
I had them as a F.
I also had them as an F as well. I
All
don't
right.
think that anything they did there was defensible ultimately. I think it was clearly far and away one of the worst draft classes. And ultimately as well, we might be sounding like everyone else that's out there in the draft community talking about them, but if you go look at the 49ers draft classes from 2022 on, they are by far the worst in football. And it's why they have to go swing for trades for established players, and it's why you see wild swings between their seasons where they'll miss the playoffs one year and they'll make it again and miss it again. And I I just can't defend the draft class. But moving on to a team that I think you really liked in their draft class, and they were one of the least talked about teams, even though they had the number one overall pick. The Las Vegas Raiders. Let us know about their draft class.
Yeah, I hate that the past 2 years, the first overall pick has been so overlooked. Like, we realize what it's gonna be, and then we just move on. We talk about everybody else. We're talking about Ty Simpson for the month before the draft instead of Fernando Mendoza and singing his praises. Um, I know that's the first round pick, and everybody's like, nobody's gonna give them a good grade for that, but it's still part of the draft. Come on, it's a great pick. And, we've already been seeing some clips come out on air. We know that, but people are saying, is that Tom Brady out there again? I mean, I like Fernando Mendoza. We talked about him so much. Go back to that live. We had so many good praises for him. He is a nerd that's a little more athletic than what he looks like, and he's just massive. So, um, a competent quarterback is all you need in the NFL. And so then they go trading in Stukes out of Arizona, a great safety, super physical. I think their secondary is coming along nicely with what they've been doing. And so, the Raiders, they're filling their gaps that really ruined them last year. And so, going on from that, then they go edge out of Auburn, Kayron Crawford, pretty solid. Other side of Keldrick Falk, but I really wanted to talk about Jermod McCoy in the fourth round, trading up to get him. You're in the fourth round. This is where you pick. This is where I like to pick the project prospects, the experiments. They traded up. They lost a little bit of draft capital, but it's the fourth round, and they get a guy who, if he's healthy, is going to be a cornerback one on a lot of teams in the NFL. Seriously, his film is that good. And so looking at Jermod McCoy, there's that risk of he might not even play a single down in the NFL because of what's going on with behind the scenes, his legs or his knees or something. So if he does play and he's 90% healthy for training camp, they might have had one of the best fourth round picks in a long, long time. Yeah, I'm super excited about that. And then Mike Washington, he was a running back that I really liked before the draft. I'm really bummed he went to the Raiders to be behind Ashton Genty, but um, I'll be eyeing whenever he's on this field, all of his snaps, to see what he looks like and see if he has anything. He's not going to have a huge load that I was hoping for this year, but we'll see. And so, um, yeah, I just really like that draft class. And let's see if I have any more notes. No, that's it.
Well,
I thought it was solid.
Well, it's like you said, they got needle movers right at every single one of their picks, which is all you can ask for in the first four rounds of the draft. I mean, I can round up their later rounds. I thought that Dalton Johnson and Hezekiah Masses were two young athletic bets again in the secondary, which is clear what they were trying to do in this draft is get younger in the secondary and move off of some of the older players that they had in it. And I mean, Mike Washington Jr., I know you might not be a fan of it, but I love it because I know who Clint Kubiak is, and he does running back by committee. And I think that Mike Washington Jr. is a perfect change of pace type of player to what Ashton Genty is. Because, yes, Ashton Genty has that home run speed, but he is somebody that pounds it through the trenches, somebody that is a bigger, more physical player. And Mike Washington Jr., yes, he's big. Yes, he's got great contact balance, but he's got home run hitting speed. And so I love it for the change of pace that he's going to get. And I also like Trey June at pick 91. He's depth in the interior that they desperately need for what that they were doing out there with the players they have. It's going to make it to where DJ Glaze is going to get some competition on the right side. Jackson Powers Johnson, an athletic younger player. Jackson Meredith at left guard. He's going to be a player that gives some competition. And then Kieran Kieran Crawford. He's an athletic edge that now your pass rushing situation is Max Crosby, Kwity Paye, Malcolm Coots, and Kieran Crawford. That is a stable that has a lot more juice than it had last year. But ultimately, what's going to make this class right, Liam, is going to be the number 1 overall pick, Fernando Mendoza. And I I just couldn't be happier for the Raiders because the last time they had the number 1 overall pick to pick a quarterback, it was a completely different individual in Jamarcus Russell. And I think that Fernando Mendoza is a culture changer, a franchise resetter, and he gets to come into a situation where he's not tasked to have to play immediately and gets to sit behind Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, looking at a lot of first round quarterbacks recently, the past decade, looking at a lot of the first overall quarterbacks in the past decade. Fernando Mendoza, as much as the Raiders were terrible last year, and they haven't just gone absolutely crazy with bringing in top names, Nakobe Dean, Eric Stokes, Quay Walker, the guy they paid the highest center, Trey Linderbaum. Um, they are putting a fantastic situation around Fernando, so, I'm gonna be super excited watching some of these Raider games, this year, Mason.
Me too, because I mean, it's like what they did on offense, right? Bringing in Jalen Naylor, they've got Brock Bowers, they've got Michael Mayer, they've got Trey Tucker, they've got Jack Besh, Deontay like, this isn't just a talent depleted, talent devoided roster. Exactly. So I like it. I honestly think that what the Raiders can hope for is a 6-11, 7-10 season where Mendoza plays the last 6 games of the season and you go into 2027 feeling really, really good about yourself. But overall, Liam, what did you have this class graded out as?
I just gave them a B because it just wasn't, again, anything crazy. I know they had the first overall pick, and I just didn't want to give them an A plus just for that. But I thought they did a great job surrounding him. I didn't love the second and third pick with all my heart. I'm sorry, but still solid. And then I just thought that fourth round they went absolutely insane with Jermon McCoy and Mike Washington just getting guys with high ceilings. So
And see, I came out with a B plus because it goes back to what you said. I didn't really love trading Stukes and Kieran Crawford at the spots they got them. I felt they were slight reaches at the time, but I feel like they made up for the reaches by coming away with Jermon McCoy as the ultimate bet wild card out of the draft class. Because if you come away with two top 10 players out of this class, which is I think Jermon McCoy has the potential to be, I mean that makes it far and
yeah.
away a lot better than what we thought. But B plus B, that's not too far off. I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah, very happy about it. And so, hey, you still want to talk about the Jets?
I would love to talk about the Jets because I think that a lot of people were hating on their draft class, live at least. Because I know if you didn't join us for the live draft show, you can catch our reaction. I'll link it at the top of this where you can go check what we thought live during the draft. But people were in real time, at least on Jets Twitter, online, were hating on the New York Jets draft process. And ultimately, when you look back at the talent they came away with out of that class, I really like what they did, Liam, because I thought at number 2 overall, they should have gone Arvell Reese. Instead, they go and take the safe bet in David Bailey. David Bailey's my 7th ranked player. You get him at 2. Okay, that's defensible. But then at 16, you get Kenyon Sadiq, somebody who I think has the potential to be the second best receiving threat out of this class and a dynamic threat. And then your third first round pick, where he should have been drafted not at 16, but at 30, you go get Omar Cooper Jr., who's going to take over inside of that Frank Reich offense, kind of a Josh Downs from the Indianapolis Colts like role where he's a playmaker that you can hand the football off to. He can catch those little quick RPOs. You can move him in pre-zip zap motions across the formation. I really like it what they built in the first round, but then we circle back into the later rounds and D'Angelo Pons, man, was my 42nd ranked player, I believe. And you get him at 50. He's somebody that reminds me so much of a great undersized corner that the Jets just had in DJ Reed. He's going to start in that secondary immediately. And then I like what they did in the 4th round, trying to replace the Quinnen Williams again through the aggregate for you Moneyball people and getting Daryl Jackson Jr. out of Florida State because he's just a big guy, big mass, 6'3", 330 run stuffer from Florida State. Put him in with Tavondre Sweat and Mozzie Smith that you got from the Cowboys, and that's a big defensive line. And then to round it out, I think that Cade Klubnik as a developmental option at quarterback that is young behind Geno Smith. I think this is a home run draft class, Liam.
Yeah, big fan of it. Let's keep it on the quarterback because I was a big fan of the 3 teams that in their later rounds just took a flyer on quarterbacks that, had a disappointing year, but you still feel like there's talent there, and so I'm talking about Drew Aller with the Steelers, Garrett Nussmeier with the Chiefs, and then right here, Cade, Klubnik with the Jets. Just, you don't have much capital left. Les quarterback's always fun, especially if it's a prospect. You never know what will happen, so, hyped about that, and then, yeah, Daryl Jackson Jr. I was reading this thing that, who wrote this? Scouts Inc. said, from Rich Semini. And I thought it was just hilarious. They were talking about a nose tackle right here, defensive tackle, and he says, even if his production did not directly show up on the stat sheet, I think that's hilarious because that's just what we've been talking about. These nose tackles, they don't have the stats, but it's just what can they do? And Daryl Jackson Jr., 6'5", 315, uh, defense beast for the trenches. He's going to be awesome for the Jets. And to replace Quentin Williams, you got Tavondre Sweat. And now this guy, he's not going to be the main guy, but he'll come in every now and then, maybe on like they know it's a pass first down. He'll just get a rep in and he'll be fine. He's going to do what's asked of him. So, and then D'Angelo Pons. Love him. I was hoping the Packers would be able to get him because I know he's 5'8", which is kind of scary, but he's so smart. He's so smart. He's always going to be in the right position. He's always going to make the right play. He might get mossed on. I don't care. 9 out of 10 times he's going to do the right thing when it's a pass. So he's a great cornerback replacing DJ Reed basically. This was the Lions pick. Yeah. This was from Detroit. So you're basically getting that replacement right there. And so let's go to that first round where they had 3 picks. Absolutely insane. David Bailey, the whole argument was David Bailey or Arvell Reese, which one? And so they went with David Bailey. That means they're just saying, yep, you are going to be just an edge rusher. Go get the quarterback. I'm fine with it. New York Jets, stick with it. Aaron Glenn, stick with it. Don't change it. If you're going to change it, it's going to be massively disappointing. But anyways, Kenyon Sadiq, fantastic prospect. He's just going to be a receiver, basically. And then Omar Cooper Jr., he's got a good size. Picking him at 30, why not? I'm not the biggest fan of him, but the wide receiver room's coming together. Who's quarterback? I don't know. We'll see. But
Well,
yeah, the Jets pick. You go.
well, no, I was just going to say that, like, but Omar Cooper is not going to be the number one guy. He's going to be like the fourth or fifth guy in that offense.
Yep. And so yeah, he'll be fine, right? So them having Garrett Wilson, they got Donnie Mitchell, who I don't know if you want to call him a 2, but Kenyon Sadiq is going to be receiving back. Don't forget that. It says tight end, but he's just going to be primarily, I think 90% of the time, just going to be like a Travis Kelce going on routes, sinking in the zone. So the Jets, it's the Jets, but that was a good pick. That was a good draft class right there.
I know it's the Jets, and we might be hyping them a lot. Don't get it twisted. This is still probably going to be a 4 to 7 win team because of who's their head football coach. But I think that they honestly have the makings of an exciting offense because of this draft class, because it goes back to the roles that Sadiq and Cooper are going to slide into, right? Because Mason Taylor, their second round pick at tight end last year, he just had 700 receiving yards as a tight end. And so, I mean, you have Kenyon Sadiq and Mason Taylor in your tight end room. You've got Garrett Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, and Omar Cooper Jr. in the receiving room. That is a receiving stable of different body types that do different things. And I think that Garrett Wilson is one of the true alpha number one wide receivers that people really sleep on because they don't understand how bad the quarterback play has been. And then you go back to they've got a really good young ascending offensive line led by Armand Mimbu and Olu Fashanu at the tackle spots. And then in the backfield, they've got Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. I think is a really good one-punch duo. So it goes back to that quarterback position. If Geno Smith can return to Seahawks level play, with Frank Reich as his OC, I think this could be a lot more of an exciting offense than we realize. But where I think that Jets fans are going to be left after this is their offense is what's going to be the good part of their team. They're going to finish 6-11 and wonder why they have a defensive head coach whose lifetime is 11-24 after 2 years. But back to the draft class, Liam. I've got it as an A. That's what I have it graded at.
Having it as an A as well.
So there you go. Really, for me, the only thing that keeps it from an A plus is I would have gone Arvell Reese at 2. They go David Bailey. It's a difference of opinion. Take it how you will, but clear A's. That means that they probably hit a home run with the draft. And so I guess we'll turn the page to really the debate between both of us, where I think that we diverge the most about the 2026 draft class. The Los Angeles Rams did something pretty shocking with the 13th overall pick, Liam.
Yeah, absolutely insane to me. I mean, I just don't understand it. We're in go mode. You guys were just like 2 players away from really a Super Bowl run last year, and it was your secondary. In the offseason, you fixed your secondary. So I was thinking, there's not a whole lot of holes on the Rams. What are you gonna fix? Puka Nacua, you never know what he's gonna do. And Devontae Adams is aging up there. I mean, his hamstrings are week to week gonna be this year, they're gonna be week to week. So I thought wide receiver was gonna be the move here, and we all knew that Micaiah Lemon would probably be the guy at pick 13. Jordan Tyson and Cardinal Tate were gonna go by then, and so I thought that was gonna be the pick, and some people thought that might be crazy, but no, they go Ty Simpson, Matthew Stafford replacement after they've already drafted. I feel like the past 2 years or 3 years, they've been drafting Matthew Stafford replacements, and just none of them work. And so, I didn't like that at all, but I'll go through the whole draft so we can pick and choose from there. They hardly had any picks, all right? And that's fine when you're a good team and you're winning the Super Bowl and you're kind of in go mode, you're going to lose those picks, right? So they had 5 picks, and I didn't think any of them were really worth those picks. They go Max Clare with the second round, tight end at Ohio State, Keegan Trost, tackle in the third round, CJ Daniels in the sixth round. I mean, we're the sixth and seventh round, so I'm not going to judge those harshly, but the first 3 picks I thought were absolutely just kind of wasted on what they needed. You got anything, or should I keep going?
Well, I mean, I'll kind of just fire back with from top down of where I think that we disagree a little bit, and I'll start with their 7th round pick with Tim Keenan. The third, a defensive tackle out of Alabama. Yeah, it's a 7th round pick, but it's a defensive tackle archetype they've had a lot of success with Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk in the middle of that defense. I think he's just a death piece that's going to be a shocker that a 7th round pick has a chance to make the roster. He might not, but I think he'll be a practice squad guy that he might show up and be on the roster. I want to go back to the 3rd round pick, though, in Keegan Trost, an offensive tackle out of Missouri. He's somebody I was a little higher on. I had him in my top 125. They reached on him at 93, but I went back to thinking at 13 they should take an offensive tackle. But I go to it of like, well, Rob Havenstein retired, yes, but Will McClendon Jr. is there to fill the role and he can play. Keegan Tross is somebody that can rise up right behind him and provide depth as the swing tackle and eventually take over at the right side. I think that's when you're in win now mode. That's what you try to do in the middle rounds. And then Max Clare, 61 overall. He's a tight end. He was my 3rd ranked tight end. I had Eli Stowers at 2, Kenyon Sadiq at 1. I had Max Clare at 3. He was my 74th ranked player. You get him at 61. It's again a slight reach, but I see it as a need for the Rams because a lot of people forget that they ran when they won their Super Bowl, they majored in 11 personnel. Since then, they've gone through a little bit of a mini evolution of going to 12, 13, 13T personnel. And the reason is
They ran 13 personnel the most last year.
which if you had been following this show, we called that all the way back in April of 2025 of last year. Shameless plug again. But why I like the Max Clare pick, even with having Terrence Ferguson, even with Tyler Higbee and Colby Parkinson, is because of the way Sean McVay deploys tight ends. Everyone forgets that in their base run game, they had Ben Skoranek and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua out on the field at one point. Ben Skoranek and Cooper Kupp at that point were basically inline blocking tight ends in tight formations that would go scoop in the power run game. He's now got Terrence Ferguson and Max Clare to do that. And then he's also got Colby Parkinson and Tyler Higbee as traditional Y inline tight ends. So that's why I think the pick is defensible. I'll go to pick 13 because I know I'm rambling here. Cut me off at any time. But Trent McDuffie, the second first-round pick, we got to include him as the class. I saw corner as really the only need on a roster that I think is a Super Bowl-worthy roster. I think the Rams got in the Super Bowl. The Rams would have crushed the Patriots just like the Seahawks did. That was their last need. At that point, when during the Sean McVay era are they going to have a top 15 pick again with a chance to pick a blue chipish quarterback with starting level upside. I don't think it's going to happen again. Was Ty Simpson at 13 a reach? Yes. 37th ranked player, you pick him at 13. But my draft philosophy is if you think a quarterback can start for you, who cares where you pick him? Because if he ends up starting for you and he's good, you won anyways.
That's a fair point. I just don't see Ty Simpson as being that guy. I mean, a lot of people immediately when this happened, a lot of people were like, "This is a page out of the Green Bay Packers book, and it's Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre." This is more a in my opinion, I think this is more of a Michael Penix backing up Kirk Cousins than it is a Jordan Love to Aaron Rodgers moment here. Like Matthew Stafford, I like Sean McVay. A lot of the best arguments I've heard from people defending the pick have been, "Oh, he's going to sit behind Matt Stafford and Sean McVay. I mean, like this guy's going to be an incredible prospect no matter what." I mean, they've already tried that with other quarterbacks, and guess what? There's a real good chance Matthew Stafford is not there next year. He's gonna retire, and then Sean McVay, like, do we know if he's gonna stay? And so, like, his entire future, in my opinion, from what I've seen, is people, like, they're defending him because he's in a good room to be around. And they're already giving him the JJ McCarthy, you know, attributes. They're not talking about anything athletically or any sort of crazy stat. I mean, he was playing Mercer and the Citadel. That's what Bama plays. So like the stats are kind of inflated. When it went down to game time, stats went down, way down. And so they're giving him the JJ McCarthy attributes. He loves football. He has a good heart. He's got a good brain. They're not talking about anything physically attributes. So I don't think there's like the high ceiling there that you'd want out of a 13th picked quarterback, 13th overall quarterback. So that's just some of the stuff I have there for Ty Simpson. I know that was kind of heavy, but then the Max Clare, I thought it was a reach, but yeah, they have 13 personnel, the most with Sean McVay. So getting that fourth tight end, it kind of makes sense because they're going to be using three a whole bunch. One of them gets injured, you're going to want a guy back there. And so if that's going to be their core offense, I understand it. Just a bit of a reach. Keegan Trost at the third round, you know, like you brought up, you thought that they were going to be picking a tackle with that 13th pick since Trent McDuffie was part of that first round class, which that's a good pick. Um, yeah, I thought that go tackle there or wide receiver, somebody that will for sure help you now. And so that's just what I have there, Mason. I know that was a lot, but
Yeah.
that was
Well,
the
I'll
last arguments of my debate.
I'll just bring the conversation back to Ty Simpson because I think I just disagree with you a little bit. I'll talk about some of the physical attributes with him. I think he has a stronger arm than Mendoza. I think he's pretty athletic. The two players he reminds me the most of is the current player cop in the modern era is Brock Purdy. But who Brock Purdy always reminded me of as a Cowboys fan is Tony Romo. And why I go back to Tony Romo is he was a very controversial quarterback. No one would, it was always like, is he an elite quarterback or is he a starting level quarterback? It was controversy. And the reason why is they're slightly undersized quarterbacks who have a good, not elite arm, but they have an escapability it factor. And say what you want about Ty Simpson, he stuck his neck in against being down 17-3 against the best defense in football. I know Ohio State was, but the biased OU fan in me wants to say OU, and he led them to a college football playoff victory. In his first season of starting, you can see it all over his highlight tape. He escapes out of situations that he shouldn't, and he makes NFL level throws and NFL level reads because he played in an NFL offense. Because Ryan Grubb, the OC at Alabama, used to be the OC at the Seahawks, and there's a lot of NFL level concepts there. And so I go back to I trust the evaluation of what the Rams are doing with them. I see the potential of getting him to sit. I think that his floor is, like you said, JJ McCarthy, and I think that his ceiling is Tony Romo, and I see the vision for it. So I'm not going to be able to just say that the Rams had a terrible draft class. I see the vision for what they did.
I do not see the vision for the Rams class. I if you tell me that they're preparing for the future, I can kind of see it. But to me, this is going to be a disaster class if come playoff time they have a disaster game because just wear and tear on the players normally happens. A wide receiver problem or a lineman problem, or I'd even go as far as say that I think a part of their defensive line would have really needed some help there with one of those picks. So, um, I'm going to be I guess we'll have to wait for basically 7 months to find out, but, or 8 months. But, to me, it's gonna be such a great payoff if they win the Super Bowl, if they get really close, and, next year it's like, "Hey, we're still going." That'll be fine. But if they miss it and it's a disaster, we're gonna look back at this and say, "What were they thinking?" So,
Time will tell. Liam, what is your final grade for the video for the Rams draft class?
well, this is the argument one, so I'm guessing we're gonna be way off. I gave them a D minus.
And I had their draft grade at a solid B minus. So y'all can see how we differ. We have different takes about it. I see the vision. Liam sees, hey, would Mekhi Lemon win them a Super Bowl in 2026? I think they're both fair takes. Y'all drop your take down below. You let us know what you think about the Rams draft class. But Liam, kind of rounding out the video as a whole, man. Draft season's over, baby. We put a lot of time into that. 3 hours with you guys live. We really appreciated all the support on the channel leading up to it. And I mean, what an incredible kind of first year for the War Room podcast, right? It was kind of our 1 year anniversary.
Yeah, I totally forgot to mention that during the live. I don't know if we did, right? That was our exact 1 year anniversary. So appreciate all the support. I think we got to 200 views from the live, which is nice. And Mason's videos of rebuilding are always popping off. And I think our shorts and our TikToks and our reels are going pretty good. So just really appreciate the support so far. That was a good year. Shout out to Mason for, man, that was like a month's work that went into the draft night. 30 days just working on stuff. What do you think of this player? What do we grade him as? So Mason, you did a great job, man.
Well, and I do it because it's honestly just a hobby. And I mean, we appreciate y'all coming in with an audience to let us get our football and sports takes out to where a hobby can maybe become something where it's a community built with you guys. And I mean, all the credit to Liam as well for, he's working full time and has a long-term he's doing all the things as well, and he makes time to be with us. And so we just appreciate you guys hanging out with us, building a community where there's 483 of you on YouTube, 770 of y'all over on TikTok. And so the goal is just to continue to building it together, and we're going to kind of go forward through the summer of doing our divisional previews again. Liam's going to be dropping in that fantasy football advice. You already heard him sipping in a little bit about dynasty fantasy advice. And so we appreciate y'all joining us. We'll catch you in the next episode of the War Room. Peace out. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the War Room podcast presented by the Sideline Journal. If you haven't yet, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It will really help us out as we're trying to grow to our goal of 500 subs. Anyways, we appreciate it. You drop your take on how you feel about how your team did in the 2026 NFL Draft. We'll catch you in the next episode. Peace out.